Hello everyone, I'm Marion Woods, the Chamber Ambassador and the moderator of today's program. On behalf of the Warrensburg Chamber of Commerce, I welcome all of the candidates to our forum, as well as everyone watching via the internet. First thing I will do is explain the format and rules that we're using. All questions were submitted and selected by the Governmental Relations Committee. All candidates were given the questions in advance. Candidates will be seated on the main floor as they are now. Social distancing guidelines are being followed, and when invited, asked to speak at the microphone. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to introduce themselves. I will randomly pick a number out of a box. The number will correspond with a question from the list of submitted questions, and this will continue until at least 3 questions have been asked. Each candidate gets 1 minute to answer that question. The order at random has been determined by me before we began. I'll explain that more later. The timekeeper will hold up a paddle indicating how much time is remaining, and it will be at my discretion to offer any rebuttal time if I think that's needed. As a public service, the Greater Warrensburg Area Chamber of Commerce's role tonight is to sponsor this event, to provide the public the opportunity to hear from the candidates seeking office so that they may better make informed decisions about their representatives in government. The Warrensburg Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization, and in that nonpartisan spirit, has to the best of its ability strived to put fairness above all else by including and obtaining consensus between county committee chairpersons in every aspect of the planning of the event, and by including any and all candidates seeking office regardless of party affiliation in tonight's candidate forum.
My name is Mark Bliss. I'm running as a Libertarian candidate for Senate District 21. I moved to District 21 in 2008 to study sociology at the University of Central Missouri. There I met my wife, Amanda, and I get to spend the rest of my life with her and her 3 kids. We did just have a 4th child here in April, so that was fun, finding out what it's like to have a baby during a pandemic. But in 2008 is kind of when I really had my political awakening. It seemed the Republican Party, after the financial crisis, turned into the big government party, and I found words of Ron Paul rang true. I tended to start believing libertarian principles of personal responsibility, and the financial problems that were arising were because of years and years of the same parties over and over. So.
Okay, thank you very much. You may go ahead and sit down. Next, our current senator.
Hi, my name is Denny Hoskins. I'm a proud father, husband, and small business owner here in Warrensburg, Missouri. I've been your state senator since 2016, and I have enjoyed serving as your state senator. My outside job is I'm a certified public accountant, and I do live here in Warrensburg. Missouri currently has a $36 billion budget, and I believe that we need at least one certified public accountant in the Missouri State Senate to help manage your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. If elected in November, I plan on focusing on trying to get our schools and businesses back going and making sure that our kids are actually physically in school and that our businesses are open for business. I've been endorsed by the Missouri Nurses Association, Missouri Farm Bureau, Missouri Cattlemen's Association, National Rifle Association, Missouri Right to Life, and being crowned a business champion by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay there, Denny. Just stay there at the microphone. You will have the first question. And I'll pick a number. Number 1. The first question on my list. What is your stand on Amendment 1? And explain why.
Amendment 1 has to deal with term limits. I voted this past legislative session to put this on the ballot for Missouri voters to decide. I do think that we should have term limits for all statewide statewide elected officials, and I would support Amendment 1 on the ballot. I do plan on voting yes on Amendment 1.
All right, thank you. Next candidate, same question for you, and I'll repeat it for you. What is your stand on Amendment 1, and explain why?
I actually agree on Amendment 1. I think we do need to pass it. However, the best way to do that, if we keep changing the Constitution, I think would be to expand that definition and include it to all elected positions, that when you serve 2 terms, then you're done and the next person can come in and we can prevent career politics that way and keep people accountable to their voters. But yes, I'm also going to vote for Amendment 1. I guess the only reason I would oppose it is it's not broad enough. I think we should expand it to all elected officials.
All right, thank you. Next question will be question number 5. And you will be first this time. Mark, you will be the first one to answer this one. Question number 5 is, what is the biggest issue you plan to address if elected, and explain why?
Yeah, the biggest issue, I'm not sure is one in general, but it would be just to rein in government. Like I said before, the Republican Party has become the party of big government. We also know that the Democrats have mishandled the budget in the past. And I think my first thing would be to look at the budget and see where we can cut waste. We needed a lot of money for coronavirus relief, and we're struggling to find that money in certain places. We're talking about cutting education to pass Medicare. So I think we need to, or Medicaid, I think we need to look back at the budget would be the first thing I do. Kind of get the government on a Dave Ramsey plan, I guess. If you don't have the money, don't spend it, and use the money that you do have wisely because you're accountable to the taxpayers.
All right, thank you. Denny, of course, the same question. Number 5 on my list is, what is the biggest issue you plan to address if elected, and explain why?
The Missouri General Assembly is going to have to work on the budget this next legislative session. With the expansion of Medicaid that voters approved in August, we're going to have to find that money somewhere to help pay for that expansion of Medicaid. I have a few ideas as far as how to cut expenses, as well as to raise additional revenue without raising taxes. But I think the budget will definitely be the biggest issue that is tackled this next legislative session.
All right, Denny, just stay there. You'll answer first on the next question. If I can get it out of the box.
Right.
I guess that's a 6. Number 6 is, how will you help to ensure Missouri establishes a prescription drug monitoring program?
In the Senate last year, we did come up with a compromise for a government database to monitor your prescription drug usage. However, I have a lot of problems and concerns with this. I don't believe that our state government should track what prescriptions that I'm taking or anyone else is taking. So I've been adamantly against a government-run database to track your personal private drug prescriptions in the past, and I don't foresee this issue moving very much forward this next legislative session. Currently, the St. Louis County has a prescription drug database, and what we've seen is in states that have a prescription drug database, the actual deaths related to opioid abuse has not gone down. And so for that, as well as privacy reasons, I will be voting against a prescription drug monitoring system.
All right, thank you very much. I'll repeat the question again. How will you help to ensure Missouri establishes a prescription drug monitoring program?
Yeah, I do not support a drug monitoring program at the government level. I think maybe we could look at HIPAA laws. We've seen, in this coronavirus area that HIPAA laws have created problems. So maybe we could pull back restrictions there. But as far as government controlling the information that we have, I don't think it works. I think the reason we have an opioid crisis, though, is because of all the restrictions that the government has made on alternative medicines. You know, cannabis is becoming a big deal in Missouri now. Alternative medicines, herbal medicines, essential oils, that kind of thing. They show that they do provide a relief for people with pain, alternatives to opioids. So the government is trying to create solutions with these monitoring programs, but we have to look at the policies deeper than that and realize that maybe we need to look for alternative types of medicine in general. So I would support, exploration of cannabis and that kind of stuff to help, end that crisis.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. The next candidates are for State Representative, 51st District. We have two candidates. The person in the right chair is first, and that would be Bill Wayne. Introduce yourself, Bill. You have 1 minute to do so.
You have a choice in the 51st District. My name is William Truman Wayne, but you can vote for Bill. As a libertarian, I believe in the principles of the Golden Rule, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. I believe that people should have the right to live and use their property as they wish, as long as they do no harm to other persons or their property. I oppose government meddling in economic activity, whether by corporate welfare and subsidies, protective tariffs, or making farmers ask permission to grow crops. We need to end the wars, the war on poverty that has undermined the nuclear family, the war on drugs that has killed more people and ruined more lives than the drugs themselves, and is the underlying reason for the protests and riots. The war on guns that threatens our God-given right to self-defense, and the undeclared overseas wars that do not involve a vital national interest and that create more disabled veterans. My answers to all the questions for this forum are posted at my website, voteforbill2020.com. That's number 4. If you wish to hear voices from across the spectrum, I urge you to vote for a third party, to vote Libertarian, to vote for Bill. Thank you.
Right, Curtis.
Hi, my name is Curtis Greger. I'm from Marshall, Missouri. I'm a Republican candidate for State Representative of the 51st District. I'm a lifelong resident of the 51st District, growing up in Sweet Springs, Missouri. My family has been in the district south of Malta Bend since the 1920s, so I'm proud to say that we're close to having a century farm there. I grew up on the farm. Missouri is a farming state. The 51st District's #1 industry is agriculture, and that is definitely one of the things I'm going to focus on. I'd also like to focus on, during my time there, supporting Governor Parsons' Workforce Initiative program and developing the trades, because I believe that is very important, as it's hard to go and find good electricians, plumbers, welders, construction workers, so on and so forth. I'd also like to focus on infrastructure development. Anywhere you drive, roads are starting to fall apart, bridges are starting to fall apart, and no matter what economy you're in, we rely on our roads. So I'd like to ask for your support in this upcoming election in November. I'm Curtis Greger, Republican candidate for State Representative. Thank you.
Curtis, stay there. You get the first question in.
All right.
Oh, yes. So no.
They're hard to get out of there. Slink. Number 8 on my list of 12.
Number 8.
Number 8 is, what other state programs do you feel may be impacted due to Medicaid expansion?
That's a very good question. When this was brought on the ballot, one of the things they talked about and that concerned me and many other people is the money. Where is the money going to come from? Unfortunately, you got to start looking at different programs that eat up a lot of the state budget, and that is education. And it was surprising to see that the NEA was fully in support of Medicaid expansion in the National Education Administration, I believe. So unfortunately, and I hope this not to have to happen, is some funding will come from K-12 education, but I hope to be a part of the solution so that will not take place, because I believe in fully funding our schools. I believe that a good public education is the right way to go. And I was very blessed to have one where I went to high school at Santa Fe in Alma, Missouri.
All right, thank you. Same question for Bill, and I'll repeat it for you. What other state programs do you feel may be impacted due to Medicaid expansion?
You mean what should be cut or eliminated to make up the shortfall that the expansion will cost? Well, we can start by getting rid of some of the various tax credits and incentive programs that distort economic decisions and open the door, that also open the door for cronyism and corruption and have to be made up for by the taxpayers. Let's get rid of some of these licensing boards that restrict who can get into business. If certain government function or rule could be waived during the pandemic, why can't it be waived? Maybe we don't need it at all. Maybe we can close a few prisons by freeing nonviolent drug offenders and get rid of the expensive drug task forces by ending the war on drugs.
Bill, you stay there, you get the next one. Number 9. Number 9 is, how do you believe Missouri should address deteriorating roads and bridges?
Well, the highway department knows how to fix roads and how to plan for expansion and working on roads. Money's the problem. Low interest rates and low oil prices do help, but they're not going to be there forever. I generally favor using user fees over taxes whenever possible. The toll roads would fit that criteria, but we know that they're not viable with voters because they've said so in the past. I do not support a tax based on miles driven because it would be way too intrusive into people's lives. One thing you could do is put a surcharge on license fees for electric cars and trucks because they use the roads and they don't pay gas tax. And as a last resort, perhaps the legislature could look at increasing the fuel tax within the Hancock Amendment limits, so if they have the gumption to do that.
All right, thank you, Curtis. I'll repeat the question for you. It's number 9, and how do you believe Missouri should address deteriorating roads and bridges?
That's definitely a good question. As I said in my opening, anywhere you drive, our roads and bridges seem to be falling apart. I was very happy to hear that they were able to work out a deal through some general revenue, and I believe some bonding to get the I-70 River Bridge at Rocheport rebuilt in the coming years. I definitely think we need to find a solution to this problem. As I said, all of our economies, no matter what you're in, depend upon it. We just need to look at common sense solutions. MoDOT has been pared down and pared down and pared down with other local road sheds closing down. I feel like they're doing the best they can to their ability with the funding they have. I do believe the last time the gas tax was increased was in 1996. As we all know, the cost of all materials to build roads have increased since then, so they're doing what they can with the very little that they have. Missouri is 7th in the nation in miles of road in the state, but we're in the bottom 5 in gas tax. If it comes to that, I would like to try and find a way to offset a potential increase in gas tax, but we have to do the best with what we can. And that's what I'd like for MoDOT to do, is look for good solutions.
All right, thanks. Stay there. You get the first question on number 4. How will you support small businesses' ability to provide affordable health care for their employees?
Another good question. I feel like Obamacare really kind of put the damper on that one with the mandates that was put forth by it. I would like to see a lot of Obamacare repealed. There's definitely some good things in Obamacare, but the mandates and existing competitive markets for health insurance, I think, have destroyed the health insurance market quite a bit. So I would like to see some competition brought back into the market to increase options that are out there for different businesses to buy health insurance for their employees.
All right, thank you. Same question for Bill. I'll repeat it for you. How will you support small businesses' ability to provide affordable health care for their employees?
I think what we have to do is look at introducing more competition. to the medical field. This make it easier for insurance companies to operate across state lines. So with the different licensing and minimum requirements in other states, let's make sure ours is as open as possible. Let's honor medical professional licenses from other states, which we've done during the COVID crisis, but let's keep that permanent. Get rid of certificates of need for new facilities or equipment instead of having to convince people, a board, that we need to have something. Let's let the people who are going to pay for it decide that. Allow public posting of procedure and medication prices so people know what they're paying. And reduce the paperwork burden in dealing with insurance and Medicare. Thank you.
And gentlemen, I thank you both for participating in the Chamber's event this evening. Our next members are candidates for State Representative, 53rd District. We have two candidates with us tonight, and to do the first introduction will be Connie Simmons. You have been selected because you sat in that particular chair.
Okay.
That's how I determined who it would be.
Okay, I'm gonna lower this a little bit. Okay, hi, I'm Connie Simmons. I am running for state representative in District 53. I am a retired school counselor, and I was watching government in the last several years and decided that it was time for some normal people to step up and say we need to change. I am a firm believer that a representative's duty, not just job, but duty, is to listen to the people in the district and do what they want you to do. And I don't think that's been done in the past. I have a unique set of skills for this job. As a counselor, I am a trained listener, I am a trained advocate, and I am a trained conflict mediator. Those skills, that skill set is very unique and I think very much needed in our governments today. Thank you very much. Be sure and get out and vote.
Thank you, Connie. All right, Terry, your turn to introduce yourself. Tell us a little about you.
Ready?
When you are.
Good evening. My name is Terry Thompson. I'm a Republican candidate for the State Representative, 53rd District. I would like to thank the Warrensburg Chamber of Commerce and the Government Relations Committee for having this tonight. First of all, I want to be clear that I don't know everything about local, state, and political politics. However, I do know and care about our community. I received a BS degree in finance from CMSU. My wife is a retired teacher. My daughter, a doctor of pharmacy. My son, a commercial banker. Served as a deacon, small business owner at the age of 18, and enjoyed a long-time banking career. I was elected to the American Banker Association Ag and Rural Committee, elected the Lexington School Board, elected the Missouri State School Board, appointed by Missouri Attorney Jay Nixon to the Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City. I would like to take these lessons learned and skilled to Just City to represent you, and it would be an honor. Thank you.
Stay there. You get the first question, sir. We'll pick a number out of this box.
Sorry about that.
Pick a number. Which one do you get? Number 11 is the first one. And on my list, it says, what steps will you take to allow Missouri to collect sales tax from online businesses that do not have a physical presence in Missouri? And how do you plan to distribute the benefit local municipalities?
Thank you. First of all, right now, the individual businesses that have brick and mortar are being penalized because the ones that have e-commerce are not paying the sales tax. Okay, I think it's very important that we maintain the brick and mortar because they are the individuals that we go to support our community. Right now, though, the consumer is benefiting with a 5% savings at a minimum on the sales tax, but I would support a sales tax on the E-line for out of state. I think it is a fair way and I think that I would distribute it through municipalities based upon the proportion of the contributions. Thank you.
Okay, Connie, you get the same question.
Okay.
I will read it again for you because it was a two-liner here. What steps will you take to allow Missouri to collect sales taxes from online businesses that do not have a physical presence in Missouri, and how do you plan to distribute to benefit local municipalities?
Okay, I think that's kind of an interesting question because when you look at it, you know, the question comes to my mind is, does the business have a place in Missouri? If I were to go over to Kansas, say, and buy something, I'm not paying a Missouri sales tax. So that is the first question that comes up in my mind with this. I'm a small business owner. I have a boutique in downtown Odessa. And I know I pay my sales tax and everything, but I think that we need to make sure that although sometimes people purchase online and they don't pay any sales tax to anyone. And I think that's where the issue is. And we need to have every company collect sales tax no matter where they are. And then the distribution of that money is going to be where it was paid. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stay there. You get to answer this one first.
All right.
Number 4. How will you support small businesses' ability to provide affordable health care for their employees?
Well, as a small business owner myself, this is an interesting question because I know that small businesses have very limited resources, and especially in times like now when our business is down, to be honest, because of COVID. And sales are down, I know, in our shop, in our town. And so I think that the question of healthcare needs to be looked at in several things, need to be taken into consideration. You need to take into consideration what the average income is of that business in general. But also, we need to look at the number of employees that you have. Some companies, quite honestly, cannot afford to provide insurance for all of their employees. That's hard to say and that's hard to understand, but it's the truth of the matter. So that needs to be looked at by experts in the field, and we need to look at the options of different kinds of insurance. Thank you. My time's up.
All right. Same question. How will you support small businesses' ability to provide affordable health care to their employees?
Thank you. First of all, I think that we need to encourage more of a free market plan. You go to a doctor today, they order a procedure, and they tell you, and the insurance company dictates where you go and all this. I think that you need to look at, okay, where can I get this test done at the less cost? So I think that when the doctor looks at it and the patient themselves, we need to have more medical pricing and outcomes that are more transparent to lower the cost. We need to be in control of our options.
All right, stay there. You get the honor of answering this next question. And it's number 6 on my list. Number 6 is, how will you help to ensure Missouri establishes a prescription drug monitoring program?
Thank you. I have already been asked that question by a constituent, so I have done a little research on it. And what I have found is that 90% of Missourians are in counties that now adopt a prescription drug monitoring program. That's St. Louis County, Saline County, Lafayette County, Johnson, and Pettis. All of these counties are participating in the PDMP program. I support this tool at the county and state level to help doctors and patients who are overprescribing or abusing opioids. Thank you.
You're welcome. Connie will answer that same question. I'll repeat that for you. How will you help to ensure Missouri establishes a prescription drug monitoring program?
this is a question that's really kind of close to me because my mother had rheumatoid arthritis to a very, very substantial extent. And in her last years, in addition to her Alzheimer's, she was in a lot of pain. So she had a doctor that prescribed her, I think, way over the amount of medicine that she needed. And my mom, because of her mind, would want to go to different doctors because she would get mad at one and want to go to another, and my brother would subsequently let her do that. And as an example, she got double prescriptions sometimes. And so it seems to me, you know, here we are in a computer age. It seems to me a very simple thing to have a program that monitors what a person has been prescribed and connect all the pharmacies and the doctors in this program to let them know that a person has already had the prescription filled and they shouldn't have it again. Thank you.
Connie Simmons, Terry Thompson, thank you both. Our next candidates are for State Representative, 54th District. We have two candidates, and the first one to speak and introduce themselves will be Dan House.
Good evening. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this, and the Government Affairs, and Woody, thank you for moderating it. I'm Representative Dan House. I'm a 7th generation Johnson Countyan. I'm running for my 3rd term in the Missouri House. I enjoy my job and appreciate everyone's support and vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
All right, Dan, thank you. Next is James Williams. I took away part of your introduction there, didn't I? Told your name.
Hi, my name's James Williams. We have lived in Warrensburg this time 5 years, and we lived here from 78 to 1990 when we left to go to Alaska. And I took a job as a nurse practitioner and as a registered nurse to do vaccine research.
James, stay there. You get the first question, sir.
Okay.
Number 1. Question 1. What is your stand on Amendment 1? And explain why.
Well, my answer to that is no. I would prefer that term limits apply to all parts of the executive part of the government for the state of Missouri, and would prefer that as our legislators have term limits, these parts of our government can abide by the same.
All right, thank you. Same question for you, Dan. What is your stand on Amendment 1 and explain why?
As I've said on the radio show with you, Woody, that I'm indifferent on this one. Currently, right now, it's just our governor and our treasurer that fall under term limits. They can serve 2 4-year terms. Amendment 1 would just bring the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Auditor, and the Lieutenant Governor on that same platform. And I believe that in the past 50 years, there's only been 2 office holders that have held longer than the normal 8-year term limit, and that was Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder and Mr. Kirkpatrick, who was Secretary of State. Thank you.
Okay, stay there. Yep, you get the first answer to number 7. What steps will you take regarding medical marijuana availability in Missouri in 2021?
Medical marijuana was passed by the voters in 2018. Actually, today I just saw on the news that they opened the first couple of dispensaries throughout the state. The process is working along through what that amendment came about, and the state, through Department of Health and Senior Services, bringing medical marijuana to the state. So we've issued the licenses. People are now building out their storefronts, cultivations are building out their cultivation areas, and I think the process is working the way it's supposed to be, and I believe medical marijuana will be in Johnson County for sale in the near future, right after the first of the year.
All right, thank you. James? I'll repeat the question for you. It's question 7. What steps would you take regarding medical marijuana availability in Missouri in 2021?
The issue, as I have seen it in other states, in the very beginning of the introduction of medical marijuana has to do with the cultivation and the type of not biological, but the type of plant that's actually grown by the cultivators, and that those would be available to patients as medical marijuana, because different species of marijuana actually do make a difference in terms of what is available. I do know for certain cancer patients who are suffering from some of the side effects, specific plant species are needed. So I would very much encourage that we have some controls over the actual cultivation of it.
All right, stay there, James. You get the first reply to question number 8. And question 8 is, what other state programs do you feel may be impacted due to Medicaid expansion?
Well, I think a number of things will be impacted by the expansion of Medicaid. Everyone has been concerned about the cost, the stateside cost to expansion of Medicaid, but the actual revenue that it will generate in rural Missouri will be significant. Setting aside the access to health care, our rural communities and our rural hospitals desperately need the revenue to keep their doors open. I very much support expansion of Medicaid and everyone's access to health care. But this is one instance where the access to the health care will generate large sums of revenue for our rural hospitals and providers, and will help us to recruit good qualified health care from nurses to physicians, particularly in specialty areas.
Thank you, Jack. All right, same question for Dan. It's number 8. What other state programs do you feel may be impacted due to Medicaid expansion?
As we know, Medicaid expansion was passed earlier this year in the primary election time under an amendment. It's our state's job through the administration to enact Medicaid. That's the first Medicaid expansion. That's the first thing that we need to do, getting back in January to get on the timeline. Roughly right now, the numbers that it's going to cost the state is $2.5 billion with a B. Out of that, the state share is 10% of that, which would be about $250 million. So I think going into the 2021 budget, because we're not sure how much money it could bring on or what it's going to cost, we're going to have a very conservative budget. And I think that all, from education to roads and bridges to social services, everywhere, anything that has to do with the budgets to our parks will be looked at, and where we can save money for that $250 million.
All right, thank you. I think all of our questions have been asked and answered. And I thank you gentlemen both for coming and participating. Our next candidates are those for County Commissioner Eastern. 2 candidates, and I will let them introduce themselves, beginning with James. Raymond James. I want to call him James all the time.
That's okay. I'm Raymond James, and I served in the Army for 21 years. Moved here, looked at property a couple years before I actually moved here. Somebody told me the streets were paved with gold dust. That's not true. Dust, but not gold. Anyway, we looked at property, thought it was a pretty nice place. About 4 years before we retired. That first week I was here, before I was actually even officially retired from the Army, went down to the fire station there in Leeton and volunteered to be on the fire department. I've served on the Emergency Services Board. That's the board that controls the 911 services. I worked for the health department a lot of years, and basically I just serve. That's what I've done my adult life, and that's what I can't serve in the fire department anymore. Got a broke arm. But I figure I could do this task, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you very much. I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Raymond. John Marr is next. And when you're through, you stay there, and I'll have you do the first question. John.
Okay. I'm John Marr, currently the Eastern Commissioner for Johnson County. I've been a lifelong resident of Johnson County. I grew up here in south edge of Warrensburg at the time whenever I was born, but we got annexed, so I lived in Warrensburg the latter part of my life when I lived at home. I've worked around, my father had a construction business. We've done everything about rock and asphalt around the city of Warrensburg. We probably asphalted everything possible. After we shut that down in 1992, I went to work for the Johnson County Highway Department. Worked there for 25 years. That being done, the last 10 I was the assistant road supervisor. And then I decided I wanted to get in the political world, and I ran for Eastern Commissioner. I won, so here I am. Thank you.
Stay there. You get the first
I'll
question.
stay here, right.
And I have 8 questions here, and the first one I will ask you is number 6. The 6th question on my list. If elected, what are your top 2 priorities for your next term?
My top 2 priorities would be, one, to get the HVAC systems going up in the courthouse. We've got radiator, we got steam heat up there now. Well, not steam heat, but boilers heat up there, and we're in the process of getting the HVAC and ancillary systems, being the electrical and the plumbing, back up in shape and updated. So that would be my number 1 priority. And my number 2 would be to make sure we've got bring small business any way we can, small business, big business, back into Johnson County. Keep it here. Make new businesses home in Johnson County. That would be, along with that HVAC, it'd be top of my priority.
All right, thank you. Same question, and I'll repeat it for you.
Thank you.
Question number 6. If elected, what are your top 2 priorities for the next term?
Well, you know, when I was thinking about running, I was going to be talking about roads, etc. But now, with this COVID going on, I really think that our top priority is just going to be able to try to survive the economic downturn that this COVID situation has brought to us. To do that, I think we're probably going to be looking sometime, and I'm all gloom and doom here, folks. I got nothing good to say. I believe that we're going to be facing lots of folks in our community that aren't going to be able to put food on the table, and that regardless of other actions by other government agencies, we may very well have to turn around and figure out a way to put foods on those tables using our dollars. My other priority is real cheap. I would like to get a real nice sign in front of everybody's house with the address, with reflective numbers, so that the drivers delivering all these Amazon packages and everything nowadays can find your house.
Stay there. You get
okay.
the next question to start.
Well, that makes sense, so we don't waste time walking back and forth. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's question number 5, by the way.
Okay, no, I'm supposed to remember. I don't remember.
Question 5 is, what is the county commissioner's plan for future development of Shamrock Business Park?
Yeah,
not on the commission.
and I'm not on the commission, so I
don't
don't know that. But what I would say is that we do need to get people in there, but we don't need to give the kitchen sink away to do it. a lot of times cities compete with each other, giving away that kitchen sink. They've got a place that's got roads, rail, electricity, natural gas, water, sewage, skilled labor, and they still end up giving huge tax breaks, tens of millions of dollars. They end up owning these things when the loans default. And it's a little bit too much. The depreciation on the building's only about 20 years. You gave them all those tax breaks. That building, that ownership of that factory, that's not a local factory. See, a lot of times it's foreigners. Folks in New York City. They're just going to move when that tax break is good for them. They can get another city to give them the kitchen sink. They don't need to stay here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Same question for John. It's question 5. What is the county commissioner's plan for future development of Shamrock Business Park, John?
Well, as soon as we get the easements and everything over them pipelines out there, which we got four pipelines going across that. But as soon as we get the easements done, which we are working on right now, we can put industry in there in different sections of that. But first, the pipeline has got to be satisfied with what we're doing. We have, I've been in touch with 2 companies to move in to there with a distribution center. One of them's based out of Minnesota, and the other one was out of Arkansas, but Nebraska. And we've got to get them pipelines, easements settled out so we can drive across them and put our industry into the park.
All right, stay there.
Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I?
Why would you? I don't have a question 12. We have that. We'll be giving that over here. I've got a question. I don't have a question 9 either. You might know I pulled those out of there.
All right.
Let's go with 8. 8 is, what do you consider to be the most unique characteristic of Johnson County? And what ideas do you have to either enhance this asset or reduce it if you feel it is a liability? You want me to repeat that, or you got it?
I've got it. I think the most unique thing about Johnson County is we are 35 miles away from a metro, a big city. We got people coming down. We can run to Kansas City to buy our groceries. Not our groceries, but our big lot items, stuff. If you cannot buy it, I do believe we need to shop local. And also we've got a university and an Air Force base right here in Johnson County, and we can, that will keep us with a good tax basis for the rest of our life, as long as we keep them here. And what's it? Well, that's pretty well it. We've got, we can keep them, if we can keep them big business and small business, keep our doors open here. We got a good small town, got a lot of people. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And
Let's hear that again.
Question, same question. Number 8, what do you consider to be the most unique characteristic of Johnson County, and what ideas do you have to either enhance this asset or reduce it if you feel it is a liability?
Well, as John was saying, you got that university, you got that air base. That makes us a lot different than 35 miles any other way out of that metro area. What that does is that gets us a lot of skilled people in the area. A lot of times we look at those Air Force members, but I'm talking about the family members. There's a lot of skilled workers that move with that Air Force member. So whether it's a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, we've got a lot of good people there, and we need to make sure that we're using that human capital and using our universities to teach those classes that we need to get our industries and things going here. And I think that's good. The other thing we've got, and we talked about agriculture, we've got grass, water, and sun. And as long as we've got grass, water, and sun, we can have cattle, we can grow corn, we can grow soybean, and we've got at least that agricultural base that'll hold us up at the bottom. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you both. Our next candidate tonight for county commissioner, and I said candidate because at this point we only have one in the room, and I will let him introduce himself at the microphone, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles Cavanaugh. I'm the Western District County Commissioner. I'm running for re-election. I want to thank everybody that has supported me for the last 4 years, and I would appreciate their vote for the next 4 also. So that's what I've got to say.
Okay, we'll start asking some questions then.
Go right ahead.
We'll have 3 of them, and I will pull a number out of the box here. Number 7, we have 8 questions, and you'll have only 3.
Okay.
Number 7 is first. What do you consider to be the biggest issue facing Johnson County today and over the next 5 years? What ideas do you have to meet those challenges, Charlie?
There's several things, Woody, that workforce development, economic development, we need to improve and keep growing, but we also need the employees for the businesses we have now. You know, some of the things in the next 5 years, I would really like to see broadband brought into Johnson County and for the schools. I would also like to see the internet sales tax. That's one of the things that will help us. Our brick and mortars are suffering to a certain extent because they want to put them on an equal playing field. So we want the internet sales tax.
Okay, question number 2 for you.
Okay.
Will be from my list, and it's number 5. What is the county commissioner's plan for future development of Shamrock Business Park?
Shamrock has always been for sale at this point, but one of the major things we've had problems with is the easements. The easements that the pipeline have are greater than what we need for prosperous and development of that property. We've turned it over to an attorney so we can go ahead and talk to their attorney, and hopefully we can get the easements resolved and get them reduced so we can put it up for a better business and sales of what we can do with it. That's one of the major problems, but it's never been taken off the market. It's always been for sale.
All right, sir. And the next question is number 8. What do you consider to be the most unique characteristic of Johnson County? What ideas do you have to either enhance this asset or reduce it if you feel it is a liability?
Well, we have several again. The university is one, Whiteman Air Force Base, and then Dollar Tree. But it all stems back to economic development and workforce development. We need to improve workforce development for the county. We've got the jobs out there, but we need to go ahead and train the people so we can fill those positions. Just for instance, in the county itself, we have about 15 job openings right now that we would be able to go ahead and put people to work right now. So it basically the workforce development.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for your participation. We now have one person before us this evening for public administrator, and I will let her come to the microphone and introduce herself, and then we'll have some questions for her.
Good evening, Woody. My name is Nancy Jo Jennings. I've been your public administrator for 13 years. I'm a lifelong resident of Johnson County. I have been married to a wonderful man, George, for 45 years. We have 3 children, Marie, Cody, and Jason. Jason and his wife Melissa have blessed me with 3 wonderful grandchildren, Mallory, Lainey, and Hudson. And I'm ready to answer your questions.
All right, I have some questions for you. The first question is, why are you running for public administrator? I've asked you this before, haven't I?
You have most recently. Well, Woody, I was raised in a very giving family, and I've been taught it's good to give back. This is the public position, or the perfect position, to help me do that. A lot of my individuals who have been found incompetent and incapacitated, they have no one to help them, and I'm very glad to be there to do so for them.
Question 2, what are the responsibilities of a public administrator?
I serve as guardian and conservator. Guardian, I make medical decisions. Conservator, I make financial decisions. I file annual reports with the court for each of my nearly 100 individuals. I visit with them every quarterly, and I make sure that they live in the least restrictive environment. I work closely with Division of Family Services, Veterans Affairs, Social Security Office, and all the administrators within the county who work and reside in or work in facilities.
This next one should be easy for you. If elected, what will your priorities be? I think you've already said most of that, but go ahead.
Well, I'll continue to uphold the oath that I took as public administrator, file all my annual reports that will balance with the court. I will make sure my individuals live in least restrictive environments, and most of all, I will be thankful to Johnson County for electing me to this position so that I can give back and make a difference to those individuals who need my help.
Nancy Jo Jennings, thank you very much for participating.
You're very welcome. Thank each of you.
We have invited Johnson County Clerk Diane Thompson to be with us this evening to take just a few minutes to explain Amendments 1 and 3 in fair ballot language. Diane?
Good evening. Thank you so much, Woody, and to the Chamber for hosting this event. We always appreciate it. Any opportunity we can take to educate our voters, we sure want to do that. So I'm going to talk about Amendment number 1 and Amendment number 3, which are on the back side of everyone's ballot style. Amendment number 1 is a question. Do you want to amend the Missouri Constitution to extend the 2-term restriction that currently applies to the governor and treasurer, to lieutenant governor, secretary of state, auditor, and attorney general? So a yes vote would amend the Constitution to impose a 2-term restriction, and those are 4-year terms, on all statewide elected officials, which currently only applies to the governor and the treasurer. A no vote would leave the terms that statewide elected officials may serve unchanged. Okay, constitutional amendment number 3. Shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to ban gifts paid from lobbyists to legislators and their employees, reduce legislative campaign contribution limits, change the redistricting process voters approved in 2018 by transferring responsibility for drawing state legislative districts from the nonpartisan state demographer to governor-appointed bipartisan commissions, modifying and reordering the redistricting criteria. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it? So a yes vote would amend the Constitution to reduce the limits on campaign contributions that candidates for state senator can accept from individuals or entities by $100 per election, There is no change for candidates for state representative. The amendment prohibits state legislators and their employees from accepting a gift of any value, which is currently $5, from paid lobbyists or the lobbyists' clients. The amendment modifies the criteria for redrawing legislative districts and changes the process for redrawing state legislative district boundaries during redistricting by giving redistricting responsibilities to a bipartisan commission, renames them and increases membership to 20 by adding 4 commissioners appointed by the governor from nominations by the 2 major political parties' state committees. So that's a yes vote. A no vote will not amend the Constitution regarding campaign contributions, lobbyist gifts, and the process and criteria for redistricting. So those are the 2 constitutional amendments. If you would like to read this language for yourself or review the fair ballot language, this information is available at sos.mo.gov. We also have the information on our county website. Additionally, if you would like to view your sample ballot, those are available at the courthouse if you would like to pick one up in person, or if you would like to call 660-747-7414. We can mail an absentee ballot to you. We can send it to you by email. The notice of election will be running in the next 2 editions of both the Star Journal and the Holden Image. And the polls are open November 3rd from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We currently have absentee voting going on in person at the courthouse during regular business hours, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. We have curbside absentee voting available at the courthouse every day that we are open, and we have curbside voting available at the polls on election day. Thank you.